Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, the host of We Need to Talk here on YouTube every Sunday at noon Arizona time. But now we're in the time change. It is 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, just to keep that in mind. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka done. I'd like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They're an online therapy company. They are international. I have gotten fantastic feedback from people using them. They like their therapists, which is hugely important. So thank you, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. Okay, so before we dive into current events and the topic, I just need to do a little housekeeping. So this week I got hit by a bunch of trolls, bot trolls, troll bots, trolling trolls. So just wanted to do a little housekeeping with that. So trolls want to do something to make you engage with them. So let me just be perfectly clear. I refuse to get into a pissing match with a skunk. I also refuse to get into a battle of the wits with an unarmed opponent. And trolls are usually both. So just to kind of unload on this, I've had people tell me that I could not talk about politics. That's the problem with this country, is that nobody's talking about politics, or in the past, nobody had talked about politics. That rule is out the window now, guys, because politics and mental health are intimately related, in case you haven't noticed. So there is that. Also, it is my First Amendment right, and I will exercise my First Amendment right as long as I can in this country. The other thing I got accused of was having Trump derangement syndrome, which was coined by a Republican representative that clearly did not know his a-hole from a hole in the ground. So this is what cracks me up. Deranged. The definition of deranged: wildly irrational or uncontrolled. Everything I have said about Trump has been backed up by provable facts. Trump is absolutely a malignant narcissist. Now, I am not going to reach the people who are protecting a pedophile. I'm not going to reach them. The people who are attacking me, I'm not going to reach them. They've already made up their mind. Ooh, there goes Gertrude. She's fine, by the way. She's been to the vet. She's good. She just needs to get fixed. I'm not going to reach those people. I am here for the people who want to heal. I am here for the people that are willing to recognize narcissistic abuse when they see it. And I'm going to say this again for the people in the back. We, the people, are in an abusive relationship with the regime of this government. Trump is a malignant narcissist. I am not the only therapist saying this. Here's the deal. There is a book that came out in 2017, The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. 27 psychiatrists and mental health experts assess the president. 27 declared him unfit. 27 mental health experts, psychiatrists, PhDs, that he is a psychopath, that he is a malignant narcissist, that he is a dark triad. Control freak, malignant narcissist, or antisocial. So there is that. It is a fact he has cut off food benefits to 42 million people in this country. It is a fact he tore down the East Wing without discussing it with Congress. It is a fact that he is trying to start a false flag movement in Venezuela and in Nigeria. He's trying, he's claiming that the Christians are being oppressed in Nigeria. That's not our country. What are we doing over there? That stinks of Vietnam. Really bad. Venezuela, they're trying to start a thing with Venezuela. Trump is a fascist. And if you do not believe me, go get a copy of the goddamn Constitution and read the Bill of Rights. Read the Constitution. Read our founding fathers' biographies. Read this stuff. Read history. And you will see I am right. So here's the deal. If you don't like what I'm saying, okay, cool. That's absolutely you're right. You start calling me names, or you start using words that you don't even know the definition of, I'm not even going to respond to you. If you want to leave the channel, leave the channel. I don't care. I'm here for the people who want to get healthy. I am here for the people who need to hear the truth, who want to hear the truth, and who want to do something about it. So here's the deal. This whole thing with Epstein could have been finished in 2011. It is both a Democrat and a Republican problem because the Democrats did not do anything. They should have. They did not. I suspect that when the Epstein files are finally released and everything is done, you're going to see both Democrats, Republicans, very powerful billionaires, etc., on that list. Now, this folds right into current events. The pedophile, formerly known as Prince Andrew, was forced to give up his royal titles. King Charles had the smarts to go, backing away, backing away, backing away, no thank you. And he stripped him of his title. Why? Because more and more financial reports are coming out that are linking people to Epstein through the bank accounts, through the transactions. There have been multiple reports on this. And the thing that bothers me the worst about this as a current event is why do they not just believe the victims? Because people don't want to hear what they don't want to hear, clearly. So just believe the victims. Believe Virginia Goff. Read her book. She's dead now. I don't know if it was a suicide. I don't think it was. I am very suspicious of that because she had the goods on a lot of very powerful, very evil people. And let's be clear, people who sexually abuse children are freaking evil. They are evil. There is no redemption for them. There is no coming back from that. They have taken innocence from somebody who did not want it taken from them. How dare they? How effing dare they? So if England can strip a royal of their titles and force them to move out of a royal residence, etc., I think it's time America do the same thing for anybody and everybody on that list. And I don't give a damn who's on that list. Whoever is on that list, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent, I don't care. Shun them, punish them. Make it clear that is not okay. Abusing children is not okay. Sexually abusing children, not okay. And anybody who is defending a pedophile and you're calling yourself a Christian, I'd like to know what version of the Bible you're reading, because that don't match. Just saying. Cognitive dissonance much? So there that is. Okay. So that is the current event. That is what is going on. So I would like to dive into today. And the book that points this out about Donald Trump is The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. 27 psychiatrists and mental health experts assess a president, which was published in October 3rd, 2017. They've known he was unhinged. Oh, and one more thing, and then I'll dive into the topic. You do not give cognitive tests to people that do not have cognitive issues. And bragging about passing that test kind of shows you have cognitive issues. They give cognitive tests to people with dementia, any form of dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever. So yeah, hello, red alert. And this guy has the codes to the nuclear codes. Not good. So, and one other thing, Jamaica just got decimated by Hurricane Melissa. So not only do we have 42 million people in the US that are facing starvation, there's an entire country of people facing starvation and homelessness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So do what you can. Do what you can. I am donating to Doctors Without Borders. I am also getting together. I'm going to Costco on Tuesday. I'm going to get together a huge box of food to take to St. Mary's Food Bank. I'm also giving money to St. Mary's Food Bank. So do what you can and write your senators. None of this is normal. None of this is sane. None of this should be happening. And honestly, John Roberts in the Supreme Court, I lay it directly at his feet. He gave him immunity. But let me just be clear. Those under him do not. Now, here's another thing I'm going to say that's going to piss people off. I don't really care. Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth, and Miller are all living on military bases for their protection. Meanwhile, Trump is gathering military to invade our own cities. No other president ever had to do that. No other cabinet had to live on military bases unless that particular regime is planning on doing something that would, spark a revolution. Right? Your senators demand that Johnson swear in Adelita Grijalva. She's not been sworn in yet. That's taxation without representation. Johnson has abandoned his post. He needs to be replaced. This is the longest shutdown in the history of our country. The only other shutdown that went this long was also during Trump's first term. Do you see a pattern here? I do. So yeah, it's Not good, guys. You need to be loud. You need to be peaceful because he wants violence so he can declare martial law. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. It takes somebody who's read history. Listen to Heather Cox Richardson. She's a scientist. She's a social scientist. She's a political scientist. She understands history. She understands what's going on. She's read history. She understands it. So she's really good. So, John, if you want to put Heather Cox Richardson in there, if you have been abused by a narcissist, you will recognize this abuse. This is abuse. It's terror. He is terrorizing our population. Not just the people that ICE is going after, but the peaceful protesters in Durango. I swear to God, this will be the last thing, and I swear I'll get into the topic. In Durango, Colorado, a man was taken away by ICE. He had 2 kids in the car. They took the kids too. ICE took the kids too. Protesters formed around the detention center and demanded to know where the kids were. What ICE's response was to fire tear gas into the crowd, rubber bullets into the crowd, pepper spray into the crowd, grab a 57-year-old protester by the hair, throw her down to the ground, and break her ribs. Does that sound like a democracy to you? Or does that sound like, I don't know, Gestapo action? Use your logic and critical thinking. Read history. We are repeating it, and not for good. They're here in the rant. Okay. All right. So, peace and quiet. When we leave an abusive relationship, peace and quiet feels weird. It feels really weird, boring. It feels, why is it so, when is the shoe going to drop? That kind of thing. So we get very used to a bad event followed immediately by another bad event, because that's what happens in our families. My dad would have his rage, and then things would be quiet for a little bit, and then you'd have another rage, and you just knew, it was a pattern. It was a pattern. These frickers do patterns. You can see the pattern. So when we leave an abusive relationship, we are not used to the peace and the quiet. And we're used to the drama and the upset and the chaos and the fear, and that's intentional. So abusers love to do this: abuse, wait, and then abuse again, waiting for the shoe to drop. When's the next thing? When is this going to? Because it keeps the target of abuse on their toes. It keeps them at high alert, and they're just with anxiety. They rule by intimidation, and it's intended to keep us off balance. Abusers cannot, they do not have empathy. I cannot stress this enough. There is no empathy in them. They cannot stand their own thoughts. If you looked inside, metaphorically speaking, of a narcissist, of an antisocial person, it is a black, seething abyss of absolute hatred for themselves and especially for everybody else. And they cannot own the things that they don't like about themselves. So a healthy, normal person is going to be able to go, yeah, there's a shadow side to me. Absolutely. I have a really bad anger when I'm finally provoked. You bet. Or whatever. Narcissists can't do that. They turn the finger and they go, you. The you guns is what I call it. So there's 2 fingers pointed out. There's 6 fingers pointed back at them. They're talking about themselves. So whenever a narcissist accuses you of anything, it's a confession. They are telling you about who they are. Oh, Gertrude's going to start meowing. So it is because they love chaos, they love drama, they love upset, because it keeps them from thinking. If they can stay... Okay, thank you. You're getting fixed on the 14th. Thank you. If they can stay out of their own head and focus outside of themselves, then they don't have to deal with their hatred of themselves. They deal with the hatred of everybody else. That's okay. They can spew that all over everybody, but then they don't ever have to sit and think, about themselves. They don't like doing that because they know on some level, they know. For example, my father, when he got older, he always went to church a lot, but when he got older, like into his late, mid to late 70s, he really started freaking out about whether or not he was going to get into heaven, because he knew he had done things that would prevent him from going there according to the Bible. So isn't that interesting? So on some level, they know. So the chaos and the drama is done intentionally to keep them from having to deal with their own stuff. And the extra added benefit as an abuser is that it keeps the target of abuse constantly in a state of fright, intimidated, fearful, fawning, fleeing, sometimes fighting. I was the fighter in the family, but it's to keep you from being calm and rational and that's not normal, that kind of thing. It's to keep, it's like look over here, don't look over here. That's what that's all about. So when we leave an abusive relationship, it feels weird. It does. We're finally maybe alone for the first time. We're finally with our own thoughts, uninterrupted for the first time. And believe me, in the beginning, those thoughts are not nice because we've been trained by the abuser, if it was a family of origin, or we've been trained by the romantic partner to be nasty to ourselves, to just kind of absorb that self-denigrating inner critic, nasty, not good enough, blah, 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 blah. And it's painful. And I've had clients say that. They're just like, I thought it was going to be great. And it was for a little bit, but now I can really hear this negative voice. I'm like, oh, that's good. I know it doesn't sound good. It's kind of weird saying that, but it is good because now that you can hear it, you can shut it down. So there was an article that I pulled up called Trauma and the Paradox of Peace: Why Survivors Experience Stillness as Boredom or as Emptiness, or as fear, because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. So this is by the Reverend Sherry Heller, LCSW. She's a licensed social worker, RSW. All right. For survivors of complex trauma and narcissistic abuse, peace, emptiness, and boredom can feel indistinguishable, but they're different. They're all different. As both a trauma-informed clinician and a survivor of systematic child abuse and narcissistic victimization, I know firsthand how foreign peace can feel. After years of enduring unpredictability, manipulation, and emotional chaos, calm was not immediately recognized as safety because in our worlds, it wasn't. So keeping things constantly like that, it is a manipulation, but there was something I wanted to point out. Oh, unpredictability. That was the thing about my dad that was so frightening, is that you never knew from one minute to the next what was going to set him off. Like, one minute I was showing him my piggy bank, and the next minute he ripped it out of my hands and said, "That's mine. All that money's mine. How dare you?" Uh, okay. I was a kid. I was like 6 or 7. I mean, he was nuts. And so you never knew what was going to trigger their weirdness. My dad had a really weird thing about money. Isn't that interesting that most narcissists do? There is never enough money. It's always lack and scarcity. And even though they have the world, it's never enough. That's the narcissism. You got to be happy with what you have. It's always good to strive for more, but when you have enough, recognize it. Gratitude, it's like, this is good. Everything is good. But they couldn't do that. He couldn't do that. And so he saw me collecting pennies and stuff that I found, throughout the house as somehow stealing from him. Which is crazy. That's the narcissistic thought. That was narcissistic injury to him. So he ripped it out of my hands. That's my money. How old was I dealing with at that point? Well, probably a 2-year-old. But at age 6, I didn't know that. I was just like, what is going on with my dad? The unpredictability. So I learned very quickly not to try to involve him in my life. And that's the way it was. It was like, as soon as I realized that wasn't safe and he was unpredictable and from minute to minute he could flip on a dime, I avoided him. I avoided him. I did not include him in anything. I didn't share with him in anything. And the times that I did, simply pointed out how crazy he was. And it was dangerous and it wasn't safe. So the unpredictability is part of what they do. And I do believe that that is on purpose. So we don't recognize calm as being safe. We often feel it unsettling, flat, or hollow. Moments of stillness stirred restlessness and anxiety. The quiet exposed an unbearable emptiness I often misinterpreted as boredom. Now, I've seen that a lot, not so much with survivors of abuse. I've seen that more with drug addicts, alcoholics. When we get them clean and sober, then they're like, "Ugh, I'm bored." No, you're not. You're dealing with your emotions now and you're just avoiding them. Let's deal with that. So they interpret the anxiety as boredom. No, it's not. It's you're dealing with real emotions now. You're dealing with what's going on. So really, what I always tell my alcoholics and drug addicts is there is no such thing as boredom. There is no such thing as boredom. There's a choice. You could choose to be bored, or you could take a look at what's underneath the boredom because it's probably anxiety. It's probably emotions. It's probably things you did not want to deal with or don't know how to deal with. And I think that's more true for us as survivors. We don't know how to deal with the anxiety or the depression or the thoughts, the weird thoughts that we would get, the internal critic, etc. Nobody taught us. We didn't have a sane actual parent in the house. We had emotionally immature parents. So great book. I'm just going to throw that out there, John. If you could throw that in the comments, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents by Lindsay Gibson. Excellent book. Highly recommend it. It is going to basically, it's layman's terms. It's basically going to describe every personality disordered parent, whether they had borderline or whether they had narcissism. So great book. Read it. Okay, getting back to this. The confusion is not a flaw or a failure. It is a natural consequence of the nervous system conditioned to anticipate threat and a self that has been molded by chronic stress and unmet safety needs. For many trauma survivors, stillness can feel intolerable because it exposes the very sensations, thoughts, and emotions that were once too dangerous to give voice to face. Calm can register as emptiness, boredom, or even dread, oftentimes dread, not because peace is foreign, but because the absence of chaos removes all the distractions that once protected the psyche from pain. Unlike or like many survivors of complex trauma, I learned to fill every moment with activity, structure, and purpose as a way to manage the unbearable. So when I work with survivors of abuse, we'll do like little breathing exercises, little, calming the vagus nerve, just being silent for a moment. Or if something has happened or transpired, I'll allow us to sit in silence. And it's funny because then they'll be like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. Breathe. This is healthy. This is safe. This is normal. So it is unnormal to us, unnatural to us, because it was always. And with survivors of abuse, what I have noticed is the what's next syndrome, is what I like to call it. So survivors of abuse very rarely, when they have not worked on themselves, when they start working on themselves, they're able to stay in the moment. When they have not worked on themselves, they're unable to stay in the moment. And it's a constant, well, what's next? Well, what are we doing now? Well, where are we going now? Well, what's next? What's next? What's next? Instead of, oh, I'm doing this really cool thing and I'm just going to really enjoy it. And then I'm going to sit in silence for a little bit and process. That's what we do because we're constantly used to that stimulation of what's next, what's next, what's next. Where does that come from? It comes from the abuser. I can't tell you the number of times I'd be doing something and my dad would interrupt it and be like, no, we're doing this now. And then I'd be doing that. And no, we're doing this now. No, we're doing this now. Okay. They do that on purpose, especially if you're doing something you enjoy. So we get used to that. Well, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And in order to stop thinking, and that's something that the abuser teaches us because they don't want to think. They don't want to deal with whatever uncomfortable thoughts they may be having. And they do have uncomfortable thoughts. It's just they generally dismiss them as quickly as they pop up because they don't have a conscience or empathy. So, okay. Structure. So we do that as a way to manage the unbearable, the weird, the thoughts, the feelings. Structure provides the illusion of safety, giving form to a self that often felt diffused and untethered. Beneath the surface of productivity was a desperate attempt to stay connected to life, to meaning, to anything that could hold me together when the internal cohesion felt impossible. In this way, doing became a substitute for being. So being busy, this is something This is something that almost every abuser I've worked with is has gone to soothe themselves. Being busy is a trauma response. Being busy is a way to avoid. Being busy is a way to stop thinking. Being busy is a way to not deal with the uncomfortable thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, flashbacks, you name it. So, our task is to be present in our own bodies, in our own lives, in our own moment. I strongly recommend get a book on mindfulness, get a book on staying in the present. That's what we have to do because otherwise we're going to miss our lives by constantly being busy, constantly doing this, constantly doing that, constantly doing this, constantly doing that. Sit with yourself. You, above all other people, are worthy of your own time, your own love, and your own attention. But nobody ever taught us how. So meditation is a great way to do that. And it doesn't have to be sit on the floor cross-legged and om. It can be as simple as the putting your hand on your heart and breathing and humming. That's a meditation. That's quiet time. That's calming yourself down. That's self-soothing. And then sit and just breathe. Notice the breath coming in. Notice the breath coming out. You don't even have to hum. Just put your hand on your chest and breathe. And just allow that. Do that for small little increments. Start small. So like 3 minutes. Do it for 3 minutes. And some people they can just go out of their skin for 3 minutes and that's okay because you're not used to it. Once you've mastered the 3 minutes, lengthen it to 5. Once you can do 5 minutes, do 10. Once you can do 10 minutes, do 15. So that is the way to get back in touch with the calm and the quiet and the centeredness and the trusting your gut because now you can hear yourself clearly and there's not all this static and noise from somebody always interrupting you or what's next, what's next, what's next, or be busy, be busy, be busy. So this is all interconnected to self-esteem. So when we have good self-esteem that has been uninterrupted by a narcissist, when we have worked on ourselves and we've worked the self-esteem workbook by Glenn, Glenn Schiraldi, Schiraldi, Glenn Schiraldi. You want to work on that because you start recognizing your value. You start recognizing your worth and you start recognizing that your time is yours. It's your time and it's valuable to you. You do not have to shove it full of doing something. So, a lot of us that were abused by narcissistic parents, the only way we could stay either out of trouble or not being abused or kind of fly under the radar was to be busy all the time. Do. Clean the house, do this, clean the stables, clean this, clean. You do, be productive, be productive, be productive, because then they saw value in that and they wouldn't come at you. If any of us were sitting around reading or drawing or playing the piano or practicing singing or whatever, they'd come and interrupt. They'd drag you off of it and have you do something else. That's just the nature of narcissists. Or they would sit there and criticize whatever you were doing, drawing, reading, singing, playing the piano, whatever. So, and that's intentional that because they can't stand somebody who's got something that they don't and they don't have peace. And those things create peace. Crafting creates peace. Things that make you hobbies help you to be peaceful. Playing the piano, I find very relaxing. Singing, I find very relaxing. Crafting, drawing, that kind of thing. Even though I'm terrible at it, it's still fun. So that's why they keep us from doing those things. That's why they want us to be busy and productive for them, not for us. So once the abuser is out of your life, it is no longer about them. They can go pound sand. Seriously. This is now about us. We get to have peace. We get to have quiet. I can hear the clock ticking and the cat's not meowing. So, yeah, peace and quiet. You don't have to be productive to have worth. You have worth sitting here listening to this podcast or taking a dump on the toilet. You still have worth. It's not dependent on what you do. It's who you are. It's you. And you is your humor and your love and your intelligence and your fun and your sense of community and everything else. That's who you are, not producting. Producting? Good Lord, new word. Not being productive. That's not who you are. That's serving a narcissist. Serve yourself. Allow yourself to have quiet. Allow yourself to have peace. Allow yourself to just be. Notice the temperature of the air on your skin. What thoughts are you having? Are the thoughts really distracting? Well, then you acknowledge them. Hello, thoughts. I hear you. I see you. Kind of weird. Let me jot them down. Keep a journal. Jot them down. Okay, I'm going to go back and try again for 3 minutes and see if I can get that to calm down. Peace and quiet is necessary for us to heal for several reasons. One, we need to calm that vagus nerve down. We also need the space to really hear what we're thinking and to really hear and feel what we're feeling and thinking. Because things have been shoved into our space so much, it's really hard to tell what is us and what is the abuser. And that's the thing that where peace and quiet really comes in. That's when you can ask your gut questions. Okay, gut, do I like mac and cheese? Oh, yes. Okay, gut, do I like peanut butter? No. You know what I'm saying? So it's a time to practice being with you. You are worth it. They tried to make us feel like we weren't worth it because it was a disrespect. Coming in and interrupting us all the time, pulling us off of one thing, demanding that we clean everything and be their personal servants, that's disrespectful. Or worse, and I had this conversation with a client the other day, having the oldest child watch the younger children. My God, if anything happened to those younger kids, that older child would be tormented for the rest of their lives. And of course, the abuser would never let them ever forget it. So, yeah, the abusers put us in really dangerous positions and they keep us so busy that we don't have time to figure out who we are. Because if we did, we'd be peace out as soon as we recognized what was going on and recognized it wasn't healthy. That's why they do what they do. Absolutely. And there's a part of them that knows that 110%. So, okay. So peace and quiet makes us uncomfortable because one, we're not used to it. And two, we may not have the tools for how to deal with it. So, oops, I have the sound on. I could hear it do that. So really, thoughts are just thoughts. Don't be afraid of your own thoughts. Some of them are going to be weird. Trust me on that one. Some of them are going to be very strange. Jot them down, write them down, and then work through them. Where did this come from? Get curious. Where did this thought come from? Why was I thinking that? How does this relate back to my abuse as a kid? What is this all about? Get with a good trauma therapist, guys. I'm not kidding you. Any of the modalities will work. CBT is great for the cognitive stuff. DBT is mindfulness. That's probably going to be really good for a lot of people. EFT is emotional freedom therapy, which is the tapping where you tap. EMDR is a good way to recall trauma without re-experiencing it and re-traumatizing yourself. So there's tons, and then you can do combinations. You could do EMDR with CBT or EMDR with DBT or whatever. You can do combinations. So look into that because your peace and your quiet is going to make your healing go a long way because then you get back in relationship with you, with who you really are. And you are worthy of knowing who you are. So work the self-esteem workbook, work the inner child workbook by Catherine Taylor. Super good. The other one is Regaining the Inner Child by Lucia Cappuccioni. So I always think of cappuccino, but it's Cappuccioni. So there is that. Those are great books. And if I mention a book and you don't catch it, please let me know in the comments and I'll write it out for you. I have no problem doing that. So, okay, there's that. I think that explains why we feel so uncomfortable with peace and quiet. We're just waiting because our abusers would do that. It would be quiet for a little bit and then they do something else. Just when we started to relax. Have you ever noticed they would abuse us again just when we finally let our guard down? That's on purpose. That absolutely is on purpose. So yeah, and that's why we are constantly like, cat on the ceiling kind of thing. So work on your peace, work on your quiet, work on knowing yourself, get back in relationship. The most important relationship you will ever have on this planet is with yourself, is knowing who you are with yourself and with your higher power, knowing who you are, knowing what you like, knowing what you don't like, knowing, what you need to do to take care of you. Super important. So work the workbook, CPTSD, From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. Excellent book. Highly recommend it. So, yeah, absolutely. That's what needs to be done. All right, let me hit the questions. Okay, already answered. If you were spending time with yourselves helps. Yes, spending time alone really helps you get back into a relationship with yourself. Because abusers will come in, oh, this drives me crazy. I've had so many clients tell me that the abusers would tell them what they wanted, what they liked, what they didn't like, what to wear, how to do their hair, who to hang out with. So they would literally, so a great example is little kid in the supermarket, mommy, I want this toy, or mommy, I want this candy. And instead of telling the child, which a healthy parent would do, no, honey, we're not going to get that today. We may get it some other time, but not today. And of course, the child's going to have whatever reaction they're going to have, but you're not invalidating that they want it. Yes, I know that you want it, and world, we're not going to get it today. That does not invalidate the child. Now, it's still probably going to upset them because 2-year-olds don't do well with no, but and it's their favorite word. But you're not invalidating them. You're telling the truth. It's like, I know you want it. I hear you. And we are not getting it today. We'll talk about it. Maybe we can get it some other time if we budget for it. Okay, but then do talk about it and do budget for it if that is the promise you have made. Thing I can't stand is parents that lie to their kids and then don't follow through on what they promised. So, yeah, that creates not trusting your family. The other thing I've seen them do is they will tell the kid, you don't want that. Actually, they do. They just clearly stated, mommy or daddy, I really want this toy, this candy. So don't invalidate them. And that's what narcissists do. And almost every single client has had that experience of the narcissist telling them that, no, you don't want that. You don't want that. You want this. Or no, you don't want that, period. And so, of course, the kid is going to grow up. If the narcissist is constantly telling them what to want, what to think, what to wear, how to dress, how to do your hair, who to hang out with, you're going to come out of that relationship going, I have no idea if I even like mac and cheese. Because the narcissist has told us what we eat, what we do, what we wear, etc. So being alone with yourself is hugely important. Start getting to know you. Try different foods. Do you like them? Do you not like them? My dad used to make us try stuff. And I remember one time he made us try calamari. I hate calamari. I hate it. I always have. It's rubbery. I don't like it. Don't make me eat it. So, but he forced us. And he, I think, enjoyed watching us suffer through that plate of calamari. So, it's like, now is the time to undo the damage and show those inner children that they are not going to be forced to eat things they don't like, and that it's okay for them to explore and see what foods they do like. There's a reason why a lot of survivors have got food issues, dysfunctional relationship to food, because the abuser has interfered in that natural nurturing of ourselves. Not surprising. They can't stand it when somebody is healthy. So that is the time to explore. That is the time to look and see what you like, what you don't like, and then expand that. Okay, what do I like as far as friends are concerned? What don't I like as far as friends are concerned? That's when you do your kind of mental list. It's like, what do I want in my life? What do I not want in my life? And you sit with that and you percolate with that and you talk to your gut. You talk to your body. The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van de Kolk, Bessel separate word, VANDE, separate word, KOLK, Bessel van de Kolk, The Body Keeps Score. Excellent, excellent book. Our bodies do keep score. So it's really important to get back in touch and listen to our bodies because trauma will come out in the weirdest. There's been sexual abuse going on. You'll be having a normal relationship with your spouse. You'll have a flashback in the middle of sex and it will interrupt your sex life. It will, because your body's like, oh, this is dangerous. Oh my God. So, this is why it's important to give yourself time to heal. It's also important to talk to your partner. If you've been through sexual abuse, you've got to let them know because they're not going to understand why you're suddenly crying in the middle of sex. So, that type of thing. Body Keeps Score, Bessel van de Kolk, really good book for that, for the partner and for you. So being quiet, allowing yourself to just really appreciate who you are. You've survived. A lot of kids didn't. Let me make this very clear. I was suicidal when I was 14 because he was abusing me. He was sexually abusing me. So, a lot of kids don't come out of this in one piece. A lot of them end up with drug and alcohol problems. A lot of them end up dead. A lot of them end up on the streets because the parents have kicked them out because how dare they be gay or lesbian or trans? Because that's what narcissists do. They have zero empathy, none, zip, zero, zilch, nada. So you have survived, and your being here is a testament to your empathy, to your self esteem. You have some, believe it or not, you made it this far, and your ability to adapt. That's amazing. You guys are amazing. Never forget how brave you are to call out abuse, to leave abuse, to work on yourself. That's the bravest thing you can do because abusers don't want you to do that. So do that. That's the best way to give them the middle finger. So there that is. Okay, let me see. I think we have one more question. Would you say that having the feeling of waiting for the other shoe to drop as being a red flag in any relationship? Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Healthy relationships don't have that sense of unpredictability. Okay. Um, there's not that, okay, this thing happened and is going to happen or is this thing going to happen? So, yeah, absolutely. That is an absolute red flag. The other thing that I tell people is another huge red flag is the butterflies. If you're just intensely attracted to that person and you're just, oh, I got to be with them. Who do they remind you of? Seriously, who do they remind you of? The butterflies are not a good sign. A healthy relationship is a friendship, and a healthy relationship takes time to get to know yourself, to get to know your partner, to get to know your wants and your needs and how you travel and all that sort of good stuff, and whether you like dogs and cats or whatever. That's really, really important is to take your time. I always say a healthy relationship is like a friendship that just caught fire. So like with me and John, we were friends first. We took a long time just dating platonically. We were just friends. And then we went to go see Dracula in Westwood, and he kissed me after the movie. And I went, oh my God, I want to date other people because I was freaked out because I had never had a healthy relationship before. And then, of course, duh, I was like, no, this guy's good. Okay. But we took our time, and it was friendship that caught on fire. And that's the best kind of relationship. And it's always been comfortable, like safe, like slipping into a nice warm pair of slippers or a nice robe out of the dryer. It's comfortable. It's not that dramatic. Oh my God, I have to be with them. That's a red flag. There's something going on. You're connecting with some narcissistic trait in that other person. So, really a good idea to analyze. Really a good idea to analyze and talk through with your therapist. Hold on. I think, do we have anything else? My suspected narcissistic father passed 4 weeks ago. Ex narc discarded me coming up 5 months back. Brain is currently in numb state, not knowing how I should be coping with it all in the moment. Okay, so here's the deal. Even though the narcissist is abusive, the ex, the father, whatever. When my dad died, there was a period of grieving. There was. It was weird. It was kind of like it was more along the lines, and I write about this in my book, which I've got to clean this. So basically, my little feral cat Gertrude is living in my office, and so everything's a mess. In my book, What's Wrong with Your Dad, available on Amazon, I talk about how when he died, there was this grieving period, but it was weird because it wasn't so much I was grieving him so much. It was more like game over. Now there's no chance for change. It's done. He'll never change. There's no chance for him anymore. He's never going to get better. He's never going to grow or recognize or apologize or anything else. It's over. And that was a real sadness. That was a real sadness. There is a numb period we go through. Abso-freaking-lutely. Oh, yeah. And then, you'll be angry. It's like, you son of a, how dare you drop dead on me, you know, before getting resolved or whatever. Yeah, we have a plethora of emotions. So numbness is one of them. So I would strongly recommend writing and burning letters. Get it out of your head, get it onto paper or type it out, put it on the computer and read it out loud, print it out, read it out loud, burn it, let it go. Get with a good trauma therapist. We have complicated trauma, complicated grief. We do, because they were, for me, and I can only speak for me, he was my dad. On some level, I loved him. I did, or I wouldn't care, because the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy. When you reach the point where you're just like, live, die, I don't care, you're done, Um, but with my dad, I cared. I wanted him to get better. I really did, because I could see the little flashes when the real him, very small, would pop up and he'd be funny or he'd be kind or whatever, or what I thought was the real him. But it wasn't. It was just a fluke, It was like little flashes of normality and then it went away really quick. So I wanted him to get better. So I grieved the loss of the possibility, really, is what it was. It's if only. If only he'd been sane. If only he'd gotten help. If only he'd been willing to get help. He wasn't. He had an opportunity to go to therapy, and he told my therapist that she didn't know what she was talking about and promptly made sure I couldn't go. So yeah, it's the if only. If only they had made different choices. If only they had empathy. If only, if only, if only. So you're kind of grieving that. With the loss of the romantic relationship, you're not the problem, it's them. If they were narcissistic and they were abusive and they were devaluing and discarding them, there is a problem with them, not with you. Work on your self-esteem. So allow yourself to grieve. Allow yourself to cry. Allow yourself to be angry. Allow yourself to be numb. Allow yourself to have any and all emotions, because those are real. So just allow it, process it, get with a good trauma therapist, get with somebody who can help you through all of this. This is heavy duty. Look at the books that I've recommended. Those will help. And if you need me to reprint them in the comments section, just let me know and I'll type them all out. So yeah, that what you're feeling is normal. It is. There's a period of numbness, and especially when it's like boom, boom, you know. And also, complicated grief is different than healthy grief. Okay. So if you're in a healthy relationship with somebody, yeah, you're going to go through all the stages of grief. It's going to be bebopping around, all the emotions, everything. It's not as intense and it's not as long as complicated grief. So with complicated grief, we're dealing with the duality of I hated them, but I also loved them. They were abusive, but then there were some fun things that he did, So it's really, it's ping ponging. It's a lot of processing. It's a lot of working through. So yeah, it generally takes longer to get over a narcissistic romantic relationship than it does a relationship where it just simply didn't work out. It takes longer to process the grief of a parent that was abusive, absolutely, than it does the grief of a parent that wasn't abusive. So just allow. I think we have one more mistaken. Is it weird I'm still focused on recovering from the ex as I need to get my life back on track more so than my dad? No, it's not. It's not weird at all. Romantic relationships often get conflated with our self-esteem. So we really question if we have value or worth when we are abused by a romantic partner, almost more so than when we are abused by a parent. And I suspect in part it's because our inner child has picked somebody unconsciously who reminds us of the original abuser. So you have, the kid going, problems with this. Here's somebody who kind of sort of reminds me of the person I had the hardest time with. I know if I can make them love me, I prove mom or dad wrong. Half of a doo-doo sandwich, half of a doo-doo sandwich, total doo-doo sandwich. And that little kid inside is going to feel completely invalidated. I failed again. I couldn't make somebody who reminded me of dad love me. I failed. No, you did not fail. They don't have empathy. They were just like your abuser. You cannot fix them because you did not break them, my love. You cannot fix them because you did not break them. Not your job. Not your job. Any more than I can fix my dad. I'm a damn good therapist, and I was probably pretty good at intuitiveness when I was a kid. Couldn't fix him. Couldn't fix him. Wanted to. And I think that was the grief. It was like I so badly wanted him to be normal because I could see when he was having fun that it could be fun. But no, those little time periods of him being fun were shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter the older he got. So yeah. So that's why it's more complicated, because it's like it's the sense of failure, and it's not our failure. It is not our failure. Let me be perfectly clear. Healthy, normal human beings do not devalue, discard, gaslight, lie, cheat, steal, abuse, other people. Healthy people don't do that. But abusers do. And when we're trying to heal the family of origin with somebody over here, that little kid is going to take it personally, because little kids think everything is about them, not in a narcissistic way, but in a very immature, emotionally immature way. So little kids literally think that what they say or do affects the world around them. So, for example, a kid says something to the grandparent, I hate you because they're mean or whatever. And then the grandparent has a heart attack. That little kid, if they're young, like, 3 to 7, is going to feel like they somehow forced the grandparent to have a heart attack because they're egocentric. That's what egocentric means. It doesn't mean that they're like, oh, look how great I am. It means they think that the world kind of is impacted by them. Okay. Egocentric, as far as a narcissist is concerned, is that they too think that the world is impacted because of them, but they really, are like trying to force their will on everybody. So, that's the difference. Is little kids thinks it's their fault. And we internalize things. If a relationship does not work out in the family of origin, we don't ever blame the parent. We blame ourselves. What could I have done differently? How could I have twisted myself into the pretzel? And we do that with romantic relationships too. What did I do wrong? I remember telling one of my boyfriends that when he left me. It was like, what did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? How can I fix this? And there was a smirk, and there was this almost confession of, I feel sorry for my family and friends, and then leaving, I've heard that multiple times by the several narcissists that I have been involved with. So, when you're young and you're dating and you're, whatever, you're going to date people just like your family of origin trying to fix that. So, does that make sense? So there that is. All right. Okay. I think that is it. All right. Next week, I want to talk about cognitive dissonance. I want to talk about the fog. I want to talk about how to clear that out of your head and how to recognize red flags. So we're going to go over the cognitive dissonance. We're going to go over the red flags. We're going to talk about all of that good stuff. Okay. All right, my loves, you guys go have a good week. Drink plenty of water, and I will talk to you later. Bye.